Waiting for the music to kind of go down. Hello, everybody. Good night. We are back
Good night.
for another episode of Night Shifters. It's me, Crystal, Chris, Justice, Rocko, or Dion, Rocko Williams, and we have a special guest for tonight, Mike Tiny Houston.
We're
How
not
about
doing tonight.
a brief
There's no good night
description?
tonight. You say hello because we got a lot to talk about tonight, Crystal.
Well, I couldn't say good morning, so it threw me off. I didn't know what else to say.
Fair enough,
guys.
fair enough. What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody.
What episode is this? Episode 3, and we already got a guest now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. We're going up and up and up. Well, I will go ahead and start out with how I'm feeling. I'm having a rough night, but it was all because I was having fun at F1.
F1, what is that? You remind me what's F1 and where are they at? Because
they're here in Las Vegas for their very first Grand Prix out here. It's been a nightmare for traffic and getting to and from the strip for the last, 3-4 months. And I mean, the track looks amazing. I mean, the production value is like spot on. I've done a lot of fun things like go to the Netflix Cup where we got to see some of the F1 players and PGA golf tournament guys play. And that was a whole bunch of fun. That was free. And then last night we did the opening ceremonies and I purchased a ticket for this opening ceremony. I broke. Let me tell you, like I said, the production was great. It was entertaining, but I didn't see anything. I could see the drone show. I could see the fireworks. I was at the end of the grandstands. I paid about close to $200 for this ticket. And we had top talent there like John Legend, Kylie Minogue. They had Steve Aoki, Tiesto. And I can tell you, it's just very, very Vegas. And if anybody knows what that means, it's more like going to the nightclub, spending $150 on GA to go see whoever it is, the top talent for the night. Let's say Lil Wayne's performing. I've heard people come in and they're like, oh, we're going to the Lil Wayne concert tonight. And you go in, you pay your money, you buy your drinks, and then you get about like 30 minutes of the artist, whoever it is, that says hi to the audience, chugs out of the bottle, and does like a 30-second to minute song, and they're out of there.
And you left unfulfilled is what you're trying
I did. And the thought that crossed my mind as I was walking back to the strip in the rain was NASCAR would never do this to me. So I think I'm going to probably stay loyal to NASCAR.
What are your opinions on Formula One, guys? Because everybody, I make mine pretty apparent. You know, I'm NASCAR all day and every day. And I don't like having the race won from the start. At the end of the day, too, you know, I didn't grow up in racing. So, you know, I might have a little different perspective on Formula One. What do y'all think?
Well, I think, man, it's different, right? So most of the winners are from P1. So it's a different breed of racing. I don't really get into it either. The Haas side of Stuart Haas has the F1 side, so we follow it loosely out of respect, but I don't get into it either, man.
How's the Haas side doing? I mean, you said they're in Formula One. How are they doing? Or do you even know?
They're in the field, bud. They have gotten some points, right? So top 10 gets points in that series, but definitely not competing with the Hamiltons and the Verstappens and those Red Bull guys and those Mercedes guys. But you know, they're out there.
Crystal, Chris, can I take time to introduce Mike properly?
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely.
I just want to take time because, you know, we all know how me and Chris met, and we all know our story from episode 0. But at the same time, when we got into the sport, when I got to my first major team, which was Hendrick Motorsport, there was a mountain of a man that was in a position as a tire carrier who I met. That was Mike Tiny Houston. And I knew of Tiny prior because prior I was at Chip Ganassi Racing. I was at Petty Enterprises. So we all knew who Mike Tiny Houston was because he was a tire carrier on the 24 car for Jeff Gordon. And he was the type of guy, when you saw him before you met him, you might have been a little intimidated. I think Tiny was pushing about 310, 290. I don't know, but he wasn't the type of guy you're just going to take his lunch money. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, Tiny started in 1997. Is that right, Tiny? That was your first time in racing?
Yes, sir. 1997.
2018, 1997. I wasn't even thinking about racing. Chris, I know you weren't either. Crystal,
at all.
You weren't born yet.
I was born. I'm older than you think.
But yeah, so Tiny was in racing, and why I gravitated to Mike. Not only was he a dog and he was the best at what he was doing, at the same time he came from another sport as well, and he had an air and persona about himself, and highly respected. Taught me how to carry tires with the front step. There's two ways to carry tires at the time. You could swing it, or you could front step.
And you front step.
I front step because you got to be a little beastie the front step, Chris, and you were a little bit
Question.
ass back then, so you needed that momentum to help you.
So these styles, is this like an option that you get to choose every day?
No, you don't get to choose. You're born a front stepper. It's just
gotcha.
Swingers want a front step, and front steppers want to swing. At the end of the day, to do it effectively, you have to have been handpicked by God to be a front stepper.
It's definitely a trick to the trade, front stepping.
And Mike was the best at it. He taught me. I ended up replacing him and tried to fill some very big shoes, won a lot of races. So at the end of the day, just having Mike on the show now, I know he's going to fact check the lock, and he can put stuff in a lot of perspective that might be a little bit different from the way we can. So Mike, appreciate you joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule too, man. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate all the kind words there, Rocko. But yeah, you definitely aged me there by telling, the first year I was in racing, but I certainly appreciate it though.
What do you think about Formula One? I mean, as far as, was Formula One a thing back when you were coming into it? Did you have a choice, or did you even pay attention, or what was that like?
No, the only other form of racing that I was aware of and that we paid attention to was drag racing, NHRA. But it was NASCAR. And we've talked about it before. I didn't grow up watching racing. I was football and wrestling, and but this is NASCAR country. And Formula One's, that's European, man. That's over.
You see that, Crystal?
Yeah.
You see that? You should be stealing that.
Sorry.
I don't have a problem with people not liking F1. I mean, I don't watch it like often. I don't follow it as closely as.
We're gonna say don't like. It's not our cup of tea, We're more moonshiners, and
I honestly do feel like a peasant in the presence of these people.
Listen, it's acidity out there. It's definitely good wine. It said it's good cheese and good wine in that series.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I was walking around the Win and Encore, and that's where they had the Netflix Cup, and there were just drivers walking around. It was like I didn't have like a credential or anything. I'm just walking around the hotel, and like the Win and Encore just like reeks of opulence. Yep. So I was like starting to shrug my shoulders and look around. I saw Marshawn Lynch. So, I mean,
hey, Crystal, we race in Vegas twice a year.
I know.
At the same time, hey, look at it this way. Formula One spent all that money building up that racetrack, adding those stuff. As soon as they get out there, what we should do is take over that track and do our race there in the street of Las Vegas. We'll put on a better show than they could, I bet.
I would say do not do that. Not out here. How did that go in Chicago, by the way? Because I feel like a lot of us locals are disgruntled about the whole thing. And I think there's also a big piece of it where we can't like just afford tickets to go see this, and we can't, there's no like spots for us to see it for free unless we're working on the strip at the time, which I'm going to be doing. They're doing practice tonight. I'm not working this shift, but for the next 2 shifts, it's like I'm getting paid to take part in it, but I'll also be working at the same time. So it's just like there's not like a huge benefit for people that are not hired to work the event and be able to see it. Like they put up blockages on the overpasses, so you lose a lot of views of the city as well. Like I work across from the Bellagio fountains, and you cannot see them anymore. It's all grandstands and VIP suites that people are paying probably upwards to like $20,000 to $50,000 for the weekend. It's ridiculous. All of that for just a few seconds of zooming by like 50 times.
Well, I can tell you in Chicago, I think it was Grant Park. They did a good job. You had a lot of people in the park. You had a lot of families out there, a lot of kids. They made it very accessible when we took over downtown Chicago. So Chicago, hats off to them. They did a good job of hosting us last July.
And took it over.
To do that? How long did it take to do that whole setup? I don't really remember because like I said, I wasn't.
They were
there.
working on it to the green flag darn near.
Yeah.
Getting that track together because they couldn't start on constructing the racetrack until a certain time because of rush hour. So it wasn't like they couldn't start working on the racetrack, I think, until like 2 or 3 or whatever. I don't want to misquote, but it was a lengthy process. And I will say this, compared to any racetrack that we went to, the views, you're in the middle of Grant Park, and I've never been to Chicago in that capacity. But the first thing that resonated with me is, anybody know that big water fountain in the middle? The sitcom Married with Children, at the intro, that was the water fountain. And when I saw that, it just memories flooded. I don't even care that I walked 42,000 steps that weekend, and I had bunions on my feet because, it was just, everything was so spaced out. Oh my gosh. But it was, even with the rain, like that was such a good race with the rain. Maybe if the rain wouldn't have happened, it could have even been a lot better. Like, what do you think, Mike? Did you watch the Chicago race? Did you, from your perspective, I know you're entrenched in football now, your team is in the playoffs, and NASCAR might be an afterthought for you somewhat, as it should, but did you get any views from the Chicago race earlier this year?
Actually, Rocko, I did not. I saw a lot of the prep for it. Because, back when I was in racing, we didn't do any of the cities, doing the road courses through the cities. We didn't do that, which I think is really, really awesome. I'm glad that they're doing that. But I could only imagine what it takes to transform, to shut down, and everything that that has to take place to get a city ready for 800 horsepower cars. I can only imagine the sound that they made going through there in certain areas. That would have been interesting to.
And another thing, Tyson, Tiny, too, that you might not have experienced is that with these road courses now, and with this new car, the parity is so crazy. Like, we couldn't, how it was when Jeff Gordon was in the race car, the road course, or any type, he's dominating, and it's not like that now. It's like everybody is good at these type of courses now. So it just increases the competition. You had a guy from New Zealand fly in and just
Tim Van Gisbergen,
SVP from New Zealand.
They couldn't say his name.
Yeah, I didn't know it.
It's
just smacked them all, Tiny. It was crazy.
So, had he ever raced in the new next gen cars and all that? He just flew in, buckled up, and said, "Let's get it."
Yeah.
Because in the supercar, this car is very similar to the V8 supercars that he raced in Australia in that series. So he was able to translate it very, very well. And now he's even at Trackhouse, and they're looking at full-time rides and all of that stuff. But it's just compared to when you were in it to now, a lot has happened, a lot has changed, but then a lot is still the same too. I get that to say, Crystal, if you don't mind me, just because I got my buddy here, I just wanted to get some, just how you were talking about Formula One, and we know NASCAR, we know that some people are just really, really good. Formula One doesn't involve the pit stops like how NASCAR does, but I just don't feel like all drivers, just because, you're a top rated driver, and all pit crews, just because you're a top performing pit crew, are created equal in that sense. And when it comes time to deciding who the MVP or the most valuable player or person is in those areas, I believe that there could be two different approaches. You'll have an analytical approach, and then you'll have a more athletic, experienced human athletic performance approach. Somebody who's actually done the sport, actually experienced certain situations, and then can apply that when making decisions on who is deemed the best at a particular thing. So I'm a little torn right now. When the MVP for most valuable pit crew members came out, the number 6 crew for Brad Keselowski, RFK Racing, they received that honor. And I'm not hating one bit on receiving that honor, how it came about. I'm just a little confused at how that came about. And why do you think I'm confused about that, guys? Do you have any idea why I feel that way, considering that the 6 car?
Well,
is
listen,
the
he
most
didn't win a
valuable
race.
crew.
He didn't win a race. He wasn't in the championship 4, but he did finish top 8th in points, right? So he had to be doing something all year to finish 8th in points. Now, I understand. I agree with you. Like, you shouldn't win MVP if you're not even in the championship 4, right? Like, how was that a thing?
I agree.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I looked up. There were 3 teams that had more top 10 finishes. There were 4 teams that had more top 5 finishes. And to me, unless you're contending for a win or a top 5 week in and week out, there shouldn't even be a conversation if you're one of the top pit crews or not, because you're not competing against the top pit crews and the top cars. Because once you get into that top 10 and then what I would call the elite top 5, you don't have the same pressure. You don't have the same expectations. You don't have the same consequences. You got millions of dollars on the line every time you go over that wall to perform a pit stop. Whereas, and like you said, Rocko, no offense to those guys. I know a few of them on the 6 car, but those guys, they knew after the second round when they were knocked out, we're exactly. There's no pressure. You don't have the cameras in your face. You don't have the crew chief, the driver coming over the radio saying, "Hey guys, we got to do this.
We need a good one."
And then in that top 5, the elite, not only are you contending for race wins, you're contending for a championship. That's even a whole nother level. And sorry, but those guys weren't in contention. My point is, hey man, they shouldn't have even got the nod. That's old school, but that's the equivalent, Rocko, of giving the Heisman to somebody, no offense, who was the best quarterback in the MAC. Hey, you didn't have to compete against the SEC, the ACC, the Pac-12. You were in the MAC. Great competitive conference, but you're not going against the best of the best. And I'm in 100% agreement with you. I'm sorry, but that's comparing apples to oranges.
So in the scope of the Final 4, or the championship 4, who would it have been that, like, your pick for the MVP pit crew in that case?
I think it would have come down to the 24 or the 5.
Yeah, I agree.
If you look at the wins, the top 5s, the week in and week out, those guys are competing at a completely different level. Mm-hmm. Once that second round and the 6 car was not in the chase anymore, they should have been taken out of the discussion, because those numbers are skewed, because you didn't get those numbers where you're expected to gain or maintain every time you come down pit road.
Ooh. Call on me. Hey.
Go, Rocko.
How did they even come up with this equation? Let me tell you. You want to hear about it? Here it goes. The 2023 MVPC award, Most Valuable Pit Crew award, was determined by each team's impact score. The impact score is a function of average pit stop time for a 4-tire pit stop with multipliers based on net passes for positions under yellow flag pit stops. The MVPC score also includes a strength of schedule component to adjust for the level of competition a team is racing on pit road. The multiplier for net passes on pit road is increased for each car a team passes on pit road and is decreased for each car a team is passed by. The SOS component gives a higher multiplier to those that are pitting in the front of the field compared to those pitting in the back of the field and is linearly
Linearly?
I hate that word. Linearly weighted. So that's how the 6 crew won that, Mike. When you hear that, besides the irritation, well, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Okay, great. You get a sticker for passing guys going from 20th to 15th.
Yes.
How many did you pass going from 10th to the top 5? How many did you pass going from top 5 to we're in contention to win the race because we came in 4th, went out first?
Pause. You know what? You're probably not going to pass a lot of cars when you're running 10th and to the 5th or the top 5 because the top 5 are the best in the world and the top 5 do not make mistakes. And the only time you can gain positions effectively and consistently running in the top 5 is when the other 4 makes mistakes. That's the only way you gain running in the top 5 because they are too good. But when you're running 15th and 20th, it's easy to do that because you're competing against guys that suck or not as good as you. So therefore, it's easier to pass when you have diminished talent in the back. But when you're up in front, that's when the cream rises to the top, and that's when the dogs will be the dogs, and that should be accounted for. And now this algorithm does say it does have a component that weights the cars a little bit more that are running up front. But what they're not taking into account is track position. You're not taking into account pit road position, qualifying, what pit stalls they are in, who has the cheat codes for pit boxes. You're not accounting for which drivers blend better and get on pit road and leave pit road better. You're not accounting the ones that negate the big gap when they come down pit road and they suck up right to the car and they can leave right when the jack drops. Those are little idiosyncrasies that drivers have that make a big difference in the time of a pit stop that I just don't think an algorithm can calculate, accurately.
That's true. That's true.
Rocko, what you just said, do they have a championship driver? Yes. Is that pit crew, that pit stall surrounded by other championship drivers when they're coming in and out and who they're going against? No,
not as often. Not as often as the other guys. No.
Yeah. I mean, your driver in and off pit road can make a big difference too, right? Like we said the other 2 weeks, right? If your driver is slow in and slow off, it doesn't matter what you do as a pit crew guy, you're going to lose those spots. And it also doesn't take into account how many spots your driver loses on the restart, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of factors. You may maintain and gain and lose 6 on the restart.
Oh, no, absolutely. And remember last episode when I told you about Mark Martin?
Yeah, exactly.
They weighted us on our performance, on how many positions we could gain from Mark Martin. But if Mark Martin cannot see over the steering wheel and he will not drive into the pit box hard or leave hard, we will never gain a position. But what saved us is that he could lose as many positions as he wanted. Mark Martin was going to gain every single one of those back within 10 laps or less. Ain't that right, Mike?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's another factor too. And Rocko will fully understand this. Now, this is aging me again, but I remember when we were pitting and we had Dale Earnhardt who pitted in front of us.
You pitted with Dale Earnhardt? What are you talking about?
Listen. That man would graze me from shoulder to shoulder while I was sitting up to put that right front in just because he could, and then hammer on the gas while he had the clutch in and try to scare everybody when he did it just to get you out of sorts. And hey, man, that's worth 2 spots. So there's all those little games and tricks within the race that I'm sorry when like we talked about, no offense against the guys who are on the 6, they bust their butt just like everybody else.
Dustin Lineback, Telvin McClurkin, Johnny Roberts, Steve Price, Brad Robertson, dogs.
Right. But they weren't competing against dogs week in and week out.
They want the killer bees. They want the killer bees. They want the DuPont dogs.
That's right, baby.
Oh, just stop it. Stop.
I'm sorry that Stuart Haas didn't have any cool nicknames or
listen, you guys got to understand that Rocko and myself, we were part of an organization that dominated. And when you didn't finish in the top 5, you better be ready for Monday morning, because they were coming after you to find out, why did we finish 6th? Why did we finish 7th? There better be a very good reason why. And if it was the driver, we're dialing it in, we're getting on him, we're going to fix it. If it's the pit crew, you better fix it or we're going to make a change.
I was going to say, Rocko said last week that you would show up and your locker was cleared.
Absolutely. listen, even 2010, that helmet right there, 2010, we got knocked out of the chase. 4 races to go. We go into Texas. I'm pitting for Jeff Gordon. Race sitting over. We get wrecked out. They called us up. Hey, you need to report to the 48 pit box.
You were on that crew. Oh, I forgot you were on that crew.
Yes.
That was you. Chad Knaus yanked his crew in the middle of the race, told Tiny and his crew, pack y'all stuff, come down here. You pit in the race. And I was the backup. I was the backup on that 24 car. You refreshed my memory, Mike. Hey, I was the backup. You know what I said when I saw that happen? I said, couldn't it be me? I said, I wish a mofo would take me off a car that I got to the chase and I got to leave because we made a mistake. And, it fired me up. And then what happened? Did Jimmy win the race? What happened?
We finished. We had the best stops of the day. When we came in, they were, now this will tell you, they were averaging low 13s, high 12s. We came in, did 3 pit stops, and I think it was like a 12-1 average. And
who was on that crew? Tell me, remind me. I can't remember.
That was Clay Robinson.
Yep.
Clay Robinson was my tire carrier for 13 years.
Yep.
All right. Jeff Cook. Jeff Cook was a jack man.
Cookie.
Joe. Yep. We had Joe Slingerland was a rear changer, and Matt Vermeer was a rear carrier.
That's right.
Matt Vermeer.
Haas now. He is the pit crew coach at Stewart.
Pit crew coach.
He was also the coach of his son's flag football team, who I saw with my son.
Crystal, it's a big family right here. We're a traveling circus. We know
that's
all
right.
That's right. Kids. We know all each other's wives.
That's the thing. So, to my knowledge, that was the first time that ever happened. A total pit crew swap, and especially the first time in the middle of a race. So think about this. We crashed out. We were the 24 car. Like I said, we were competing for wins, and we were like, all right, well, if we can't win a championship, then we're going to finish second or third or whatever it was. And then we crashed out, and we're packing everything up, and you get the call, hey, man, you ain't done. You got to come down here and pick the car that's going for the championship. That's a different mindset. That's a different level that you have to contend with. And that's the type of stuff that Rocko is implying here is, love them all, but the 6 car didn't have to go through things like that this year. And I'm sorry, with 0 wins? Come on, y'all.
0.
Crystal, even that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong.
No, it is wrong. I agree 100%, but that's the world we live in now, because remember, Mike, you brought up some good points. You held yourself accountable. Your stuff could have been cleaned out. We had a lot of player coaches coming up. We didn't really rely on a lot of outside help when it came to perfecting your craft, when it came to holding yourself accountable, and that's what really, I think, benefited our team at that time, because we were all veterans. We didn't come in there. We didn't come to Hendrick Motorsports trying to figure it out. We came there already figured it out, coming to ball out and win championships. So we didn't really lean on guidance or coaching. We were just people just trying to win, be the best we are. Nowadays, dude, what you are missing is that upper management, crew chiefs, guys who haven't really been in the trenches. They think it's just so easy to just because of y'all. I blame y'all. They think it's just so easy just to interchange these crew members at any time they want. And it's becoming so commonplace now, especially when the playoffs start. Whichever team does not make the playoffs, if the other team has some dogs on that crew, they just totally break up continuity. They switch it out, and it's become so commonplace now. And I just want everyone to know on record that does not work more times than it does. For the simple fact that you spend all year developing that rhythm, that continuity with your drivers, with your crews. And yes, you might have had mistakes or whatever, but you were a team that accomplished that milestone to get where you are. And when you're taken off of that, and then someone else who has a totally different agenda, totally different vibe, totally different energy is thrown into that situation, they have to learn on the fly in a position that is very stressful at a time where you have no prep on the fly. And not everyone is built like that. So as a people reader, you better know as a team manager, if you have those type of personnel that can handle that, because from what I'm seeing, that is not working the way it used to be. You can check the facts of every crew that has switched last minute, a race before, during the race. Since that move that Mike was a part of, it has not worked effectively.
Well, you saw that in Martinsville, the Jackman, right?
Preach, tell me. Explain.
Right. You saw that in Jacksonville, Martinsville, right? With the Jackman. Was it the 20 car to swap Jackman or something like that? I believe.
No, it was the 19. It was Martin
19.
Pitted
Martin Truex, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So you throw the new guy in the mix there, and they have the hiccup on pit road. He's out of it.
Yep.
Days over.
Yep.
Right.
So hold up for a second. So what you guys are saying is not
it's going crazy.
An entire pit crew swap. One person?
Two for Truex. It was the changer and the Jackman. The changer and the Jackman had an issue last race. They were replaced the next race when they just made it to the next elimination race. They were replaced on the elimination race. And mind you, the races before, they were with a totally different drive. Just player management. I'm just thinking, unless I got some dogs who are proving they can handle it, like some Mike Houston, some Clay Robinson, some Caleb Hurds, I'm keeping it status quo. We're going to ride the season out with the people who got it there. And I'm going to motivate the shit out of them or whatever I got to do to make sure that the people that got me there are the people who are leaving with me, because it just creates a lot more issues in the offseason. Okay, now the offseason is here. Now what they're going to do? Are we going back to our regular teams, or do we do this, or do we do that? The rapport I created with the driver I was associated with before. Now what? Now I believe the time to do that is the offseason is what I'm getting at. My other point is I don't agree with the MVP. I love those guys. I'm probably going to sign all of those guys, at some point. I would like to at some point, because those are some dogs too. But they do not deserve the MVP for NASCAR because they did not win a damn race. Now, they are great athletes. They are the best in the world in their considerable positions. I do like those guys, but they are not the most valuable pit crew. My most valuable pit crew, and I'm not biased at all, but it has to be the 24 who was ranked fastest 4-tire pit stops all year, 6 race wins, multiple poles. It is when you're expected to win at a racetrack, when you come in a racetrack and everybody's looking at you, hoping that you fail because they know they can't beat you. That's a different type of animal as when you have to do your job effectively and not make a mistake, compared to when you can come in knowing that you don't have a chance to win. You're going to run 15th or 20th. You're better than a lot of those other guys you're running around. So it'd be a lot easier day for you, So that's just where I stand on that, guys. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, when you get the top dogs out there running for 15th or 20th against the Devo guys, you're supposed to beat those guys off pit road. They're Devos, right?
Yep.
If it didn't, then you got a big problem as well, right? So I don't know how the Matrix adds that in, but it's bad.
No, I agree. Well, I think we're on the same page with that, Crystal. Mike, you feeling you're picking up what we're putting down?
I am. I would have thought that it would have been the 5 just because they're always clear on those money stops. And I always catch that in the championship 4 when Kyle Larson's up there. And he really had his shot to win this time, but he slipped. And he just wasn't the car to beat that day. But they had it locked in.
No, they did. They showed it. It was fun to see, and I'm glad we got that out because we're at the time of the year, Crystal, where these guys, they had a little bit of a break, but, Thanksgiving is coming up. And, when I'm checking the social feed and I'm trying to track all my athletes, they in Turks and Caicos, they're at the Bahamas. I
did see some of them working out too, though.
Well, they better.
I've gotta shout them out. Like Evan Rodney Clay, last name, that's my cousin. Saw him working out. Like he's posting his gym workouts and everything like that. So there are some that are working.
What do you feel about that, Mike? Off season. What do you feel about the off season, guys? I'll start with Just Ice and we'll finish with Mike. How you feel about the off season?
Well, listen, the offseason is important, man. Like you said earlier, it's where you build your camaraderie with your guys or your new guys or your new team, new drivers. It's where you build your base. So the offseason is very, very, very important to go into the next season already ahead of the game. So
being organized, knowing who you're going to be with. I mean, I'm sure y'all going through that.
Exactly.
For me, you know, being old school, there is no off season. You know what? Hey, you know, take a week after the final race is over, and guess what? You got 2 months to get ready. So you better be grinding. You better be getting that chemistry either rebuilt or finding that chemistry, or, you know, because a lot of guys are looking for something, you know, and it's the ones that are there locked in, and it's the ones who get to jump on it, you know, the ones who get to jump on it and who get that chemistry, who knows what the guy's thinking beside him, who knows what he's going to do before he does it. Those are guys going to rise to the top, and when the pressure hits in that top 10, top 5, they're going to be ready. And like you said, you can't make a dog. You're either a dog or you're not.
You're born that way.
That's it.
You don't even want to see all the rings he probably has hidden back there and all of that. It was a good time for the sport when Mike was pitting and when I was coming into the sport. Money runneth over in this sport. It was a vibe. And from what I'm hearing, you know, with just all the TV contract negotiations and all the hype around NASCAR next year, we're going to be pretty good too, moving forward too. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to still have connections to guys like you, Mike, and smart people like Just Ice. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I can't wait for 2024. I can't wait for the next episode because, you know, after Thanksgiving, I'm sure it's going to be heating up a lot with the dogs compared with little puppies.
That silly season, we'll probably get some stuff lined up, probably get some more info out about who's going where or what's coming down the pipeline. So, yeah, after Thanksgiving is going to be where it's at.
All right, because I know you guys have been very tight-lipped. I want to know.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike, for coming on with us, buddy.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you. Anytime. I'm truly blessed. Thank you, Rocko. Thank you, Chris, Crystal. I enjoyed it. You know, it was a good time to jar those old memories and bring it back out of the closet, you know, so that was fun. I truly appreciate it.
Good deal.
Appreciate all y'all. We'll see you next show.
You got it.
Good night, everyone.